Look, I'm a simple guy. Dave Miller, mid-40s IT specialist, which is a fancy way of saying I spend 8 hours a day telling people to turn their computers off and on again, all from the questionable comfort of my spare bedroom office. I live in Maple Creek Estates, a neighborhood so perfectly planned it could double as a witness protection program location. Beige houses, identical mailboxes, lawns manicured with surgical precision. It's fine. Mostly. My needs are basic. Internet that doesn't buffer during crucial Zoom calls, neighbors who understand the sacred covenant of weekend morning quiet, and the freedom to fly the American flag. You know, the flag. Old Glory. The stars and stripes. Not asking for a Jumbotron display here. Just a standard 3x5 on a pole attached to the porch. It's patriotic. It's traditional. It adds a splash of color to the otherwise relentless tide of taupe. I even swap it out sometimes. A spooky ghost for Halloween. A jolly Santa for Christmas. Nothing crazy. Nothing that warrants... the letter. Ah, yes, the letter. If you live in an HOA community, you know the one. Beige envelope, slightly thicker than junk mail, bearing the ominous Maple Creek Estates logo, a stylized maple leaf that looks suspiciously like a Rorschach test blot. My stomach does a little flip-flop every time I see one. Usually it's a reminder about the upcoming mandatory fun picnic, or a passive-aggressive note about edging the driveway. This time felt different. Heavier, like it contained the distilled essence of bureaucratic doom. I slid it open with a butter knife, because who owns a letter opener anymore, and unfolded the crisp sheet of paper. Notice of bylaw violation, screamed the header in bold, unfriendly letters. My eyes scanned down. Dear Mr. Miller, it began, dripping with faux politeness. It has come to the attention of the Maple Creek Estates Homeowners Association Architectural Review Committee that your property at 124 Willow Lane is currently in violation of HOA Bylaw 7, Section 4, Paragraph C. My pulse quickened. Bylaw 7, Section 4, Paragraph C? Sounds serious. Sounds like I accidentally built an unlicensed nuclear reactor in the backyard. I kept reading. Specifically, Bylaw 7.4. C states, flag displays shall be limited to one flag, not exceeding 3x 5 feet in dimension, mounted on a pole no longer than 6 feet, attached directly to the primary residence structure. Okay. And? My flag was 3x 5. It was attached to the house. The pole... Wait, the pole. I squinted, trying to remember the exact specifications when I bought it from Home Depot 5 years ago. Was it exactly 6 feet? Or was it maybe 6 feet and like half an inch? The letter continued. Our records, confirmed by visual inspection on April 15th, indicate the flagpole currently in use exceeds the maximum permitted length of 6 feet. Furthermore, during the period between October 25th and November 1st of last year, records indicate a secondary, non-approved decorative flag, depicting a cartoon ghost, was displayed concurrently with the primary flag. Visual inspection? Did Brenda Perkins sneak onto my porch with a tape measure while I was wrestling with a firewall configuration? And they were citing the Halloween flag from 6 months ago. The sheer, unadulterated pettiness of it sent a surge of hot, indignant blood rushing to my face. My 6 foot and a smidge flagpole? My ghost flag? This was the hill they were choosing to die on? You are hereby required to rectify these violations within 14 days, the letter concluded sternly. Failure to comply may result in fines and further enforcement action. Sincerely, the Maple Creek Estates HOA Board. Sincerely. Yeah, right. About as sincere as a rattlesnake in a mailbox. My first instinct was pure, unadulterated rage. I wanted to storm over to Brenda Perkins's house, you know, the one with the prize-winning petunias and the unnervingly symmetrical lawn gnomes, and give her a piece of my mind. Brenda, the self-appointed guardian of Maple Creek's aesthetic soul, HOA president, and chief fun sponge. I could picture her, peering through her blinds, clutching her clipboard, a smug little smile playing on her lips. "Got another one?" she'd whisper to her porcelain cat collection. But no. Deep breaths, Dave. Use your words. Diplomacy first. Annoying, soul-crushing diplomacy. I decided to attend the monthly HOA meeting. These meetings are usually held in the community clubhouse, a sterile room smelling faintly of chlorine and shattered dreams. I arrived armed with reason, logic, and a printout of my flagpole's original product description, which, admittedly, listed it as approx 6 feet, damn you, Home Depot. The meeting was already in progress. Brenda, perched at the head of the table like a suburban queen holding court, was fielding a heated debate about the approved shade of beige for mailbox posts. Seriously, beige on beige crime, apparently. When my turn came, I stood up, cleared my throat, and tried to sound calm and rational. "Brenda, board members, I received a notice about my flagpole." Brenda beamed, a tight plastic smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ah, yes, David. Bylaw 7.4c. A necessary regulation to maintain neighborhood harmony." "Harmony?" "Brenda, it's a flagpole. It's been there for 5 years. No one's harmony has been disrupted. And the length, we're talking maybe an inch, if that. Plus, the Halloween flag was temporary." "David," she said, her voice dripping with condescending patience. "Rules are rules. They apply equally to everyone. Imagine the chaos if everyone decided their flagpole could be an inch or two longer, or flew multiple flags willy-nilly. Standards would collapse. Property values would plummet. Anarchy, David. Utter anarchy." I swear, a bead of sweat trickled down her temple as she uttered the word anarchy, as if a slightly oversized flagpole was the first step towards Mad Max territory right here in Maple Creek. "But," I sputtered, trying to find a logical foothold on this slippery slope of absurdity. "The bylaws are quite clear," Brenda cut me off, shuffling her papers decisively. "1 flag, 6-foot pole, attached to the house. 14 days, David. Next item, Mrs. Henderson's petition regarding rogue squirrels and bird feeder violations." And that was it. Shot down. Stonewalled by the Beige Brigade. I walked out of that clubhouse fuming, the word anarchy echoing mockingly in my ears. I spent the next few days stewing. Every time I looked at my perfectly normal, slightly too long flagpole, I felt a fresh wave of resentment. They wanted compliance? Fine. They'd get compliance. But they wouldn't like it. I sat on my porch swing, the offending letter crumpled in my hand, staring blankly at the street. Kids were riding bikes. A sprinkler lazily spun water across a neighbor's unnervingly green lawn. My eyes drifted back to the letter. Limited to one flag. 1 flag. Mounted on a pole. A pole. Attached directly to the primary residence structure. Attached to the house. Okay, but wait a minute. I reread it slowly. Limited to one flag. It didn't say the same flag had to be displayed constantly. It didn't say you couldn't change the flag. It just said, 1 flag, at any given moment. My gaze fell upon little Timmy Henderson, from next door, riding his bike in circles on his driveway, his colorful pinwheel spinning merrily on the handlebars. Spinning, rotating. One color visible, then another, then another. An idea sparked. A glorious, stupid, beautiful, possibly illegal idea. What if I could display all my flags? My American flag, my state flag, My Halloween flag. My Christmas flag. Maybe even that questionable, "Don't tread on me" flag my cousin Gary gave me. What if I could display them all? Just one at a time. My mind raced. A motor, some kind of rotating shaft, arms, multiple flags, a carousel, a flag carousel. It would technically comply with the letter of the law, only one flag visible at any given moment as it rotated, while completely, utterly, and hilariously violating its spirit. It was perfect. It was malicious compliance raised to an art form. I scrambled inside, grabbed a napkin from the kitchen counter, and started sketching. A central pole, under 6 feet naturally, attached to the house, check, with multiple arms radiating outwards, each holding a flag. A small motor at the base to make the whole thing spin. It looked like a cross between a weather vane and a medieval torture device. "This is insane," I muttered to myself, a slow grin spreading across my face. "This is brilliant. Brenda Perkins, you have no idea what you've just unleashed." Project Carousel was officially a go. The initial euphoria of my genius idea quickly crashed into the harsh reality of my own incompetence. My napkin sketch, while artistically bold, if I do say so myself, lacked certain technical details. Like, how to actually build it. My garage quickly transformed from a place to store forgotten exercise equipment and half-empty paint cans into the Dave Miller Engineering and Patriotic Innovation Lab, which mostly meant it was filled with graph paper covered in questionable calculations, printouts of WikiHow articles on basic wiring, and a growing pile of discarded Lego prototypes. "Okay, wind resistance," I mumbled, staring at a complex diagram I'd drawn that looked suspiciously like a plate of spaghetti. Factor in the average wind speed in Maple Creek. Subtract the drag coefficient of a standard 3x5 nylon flag. Carry the two. Does torque even apply here? Physics was never my strong suit. Neither was electrical engineering, metallurgy, or frankly, using a power drill without stripping the screws. My wife, Sarah, poked her head in after a few days of intense, largely fruitless effort. "Honey, dinner's ready. What is all this?" "This, my dear," I announced, gesturing grandly at my chaotic workspace, "is the future of patriotic expression. It's Bylaw 7.4. See compliant kinetic art." She eyed the tangle of wires I was attempting to connect to a salvaged ceiling fan motor. "Is it supposed to be smoking like that?" "That's just the innovation heating up," I lied, subtly nudging a small fire extinguisher closer with my foot. It became clear I needed help. Professional help. Or, at least, help from someone who knew which end of a screwdriver was which. My first foray into the world of contractors involved scrolling through online classifieds until I found an ad that screamed bargain and possibly pending litigation. "Steve's Handyman and more. No job too weird. Rock bottom prices." Perfect. Steve arrived the next day in a van that looked like it had lost a fight with a can opener and smelled faintly of regret and stale cigarettes. He surveyed my napkin sketch, then my slightly more detailed, but equally nonsensical graph paper diagrams, with a look of profound confusion. "So, let me get this straight," Steve said, scratching his beard stubble. "You want me to build a spinny thing? For flags?" "Precisely," I said, trying to project confidence. "A rotating flag carousel. It needs to be sturdy, weatherproof, and, most importantly, attached to the house with a pole no longer than 6 feet. I tapped Bylaw 7.4, C for emphasis. Steve squinted at the bylaw, then back at my sketch. Like a carnival ride? But for flags? Well, sort of, but smaller. And quieter, hopefully. It's a statement, Steve. A patriotic statement against bureaucratic overreach. Steve just grunted. Right, statement. Look, buddy, I ain't building no carnival rides. But for $500 cash up front, I can probably make something spin. No guarantees it'll be pretty. Or straight. Or, not fall over in a stiff breeze. Against my better judgment, fueled by desperation and a desire for cheap labor, I handed over the cash. Steve spent the next 3 hours digging a hole in my front yard that listed dangerously to the left, haphazardly cementing a metal post into it, which I was pretty sure wasn't actually attached to the house, violating my own core principle, and then mumbling something about needing a specific part from the supply store. He never came back. I was out $500, and my front lawn now featured a crooked metal pole sticking out of a lumpy patch of concrete like a sad industrial weed. Sarah just gave me the look. The one that says, "I told you so," without uttering a single word. Okay, I admitted, staring at the monument to my own gullibility. Maybe rock-bottom prices wasn't the best criteria. Round 2. This time, I wasn't messing around. I searched for custom metal fabrication and kinetic art installations. I found a company with a sleek website, glossy photos of abstract sculptures, and a name that sounded reassuringly expensive. Artistic Installations, Inc. A man named Julian arrived for the consultation. He wore all black, sported tiny glasses perched on the end of his nose, and spoke in hushed, reverent tones. He examined my napkin sketch. I'd wisely hidden the graph paper abominations, like it was a lost Da Vinci. "Ah," Julian breathed, stroking his goatee. I perceive the intention. A poignant commentary on the cyclical nature of nationalism versus the rigid structures of suburban conformity. The rotation. It speaks of defiance, yet adheres to the established parameters. Bold, provocative. Yeah, sure, that too," I said. "Mostly I just really want to annoy my HOA president, Brenda Perkins." Julian nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "Ah, art as protest. A classic motif. We can certainly bring your vision to life, Mr. Miller. I envision marine-grade stainless steel for durability and aesthetic purity. A precision-engineered variable-speed motor, perhaps controllable via remote, and some subtle, dramatic uplighting to accentuate the form at night." He sketched quickly on a tablet, producing a rendering that looked less like my napkin doodle and more like something destined for the lawn of a modern art museum. It was beautiful. It was intimidating. And then he showed me the estimate. I choked. "Subtle uplighting? Does that price include a lifetime supply of gold bullion? Does it come with its own security detail?" Julian smiled serenely. "Art requires investment, Mr. Miller. Quality endures." My desire to stick it to Brenda warred fiercely with my rapidly emptying bank account. Stubbornness won. "Fine," I sighed, signing the contract. "But if that uplighting isn't subtle, we're going to have words." The next week, my front yard transformed into a construction zone. Julian and his black-clad team descended with levels, lasers, and equipment that looked like it belonged on a space shuttle assembly line. They carefully removed Shady Steve's crooked pole. Primitive, Julian sniffed. Dug a new, perfectly plumb foundation and began assembling the structure. It was something. A thick central column of gleaming stainless steel, exactly 5 feet 11 inches tall, I checked, securely bolted to the house foundation. Radiating from the top were 6 sturdy arms, also steel, angled slightly upwards. The variable speed motor was housed in a discreet, weatherproof casing at the base. It was sleek, modern, and utterly, hilariously out of place in Maple Creek Estates. The neighbors, naturally, were intrigued and horrified. "Hey, Dave!" yelled Gary Henderson from across the street, the one whose kid's pinwheel gave me the idea. "What you building there? Some kind of fancy new weather station?" It's kinetic patriotic art, Gary, I yelled back, feeling slightly ridiculous. Susan from 2 doors down, whose prize-winning roses were legendary, cornered Brenda Perkins on the sidewalk, gesturing wildly towards my house. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her expression suggested words like monstrosity, eyesore, and possibly property value apocalypse. Brenda, predictably, was seen scribbling furiously on her clipboard and taking pictures with her phone from behind her perfectly trimmed hedges. The official beige envelopes started arriving daily. Notice of unapproved structure. Violation of aesthetic harmony, Bylaw 9.2. Complaint regarding excessive construction, noise during approved quiet hours, Tuesday, 3:15 p.m. I started taping them to the growing carousel structure like bizarre Christmas ornaments. The noise complaint eventually escalated. One late afternoon, as Julian's team was using a particularly loud grinder to polish a weld seam, a familiar black and white cruiser pulled up to the curb. Out stepped 2 officers, one older, weary-looking guy with a name tag that read Miller, no relation, thankfully, though the potential for confusion was amusing, and a younger, sharper-looking officer named Chen. Officer Miller approached cautiously, surveying the gleaming metal contraption, then my collection of violation notices fluttering in the breeze. "Afternoon, sir. Getting some complaints about the noise levels." He paused, tilting his head. "And, forgive me for asking, but what exactly is that thing?" I put on my most reasonable, law-abiding citizen face. "Officers, good afternoon. Just putting the finishing touches on my new flag display system." I gestured towards the carousel. "Fully compliant with Maple Creek HOA Bylaw 7, Section 4, Paragraph C, which, as I'm sure you know, limits residents to displaying only 1 flag at a time." Officer Chen peered closer, a slow smile spreading across his face. He nudged his partner. "Sarge, I think it's a rotating flag machine." "It's a kinetic patriotic art installation," I corrected gently, echoing Julian's terminology. "Designed to showcase the rich tapestry of American symbolism, 1 flag at a time. See? Only 1 flag will be visible from any single vantage point once it's operational. Perfectly legal, perfectly compliant." Officer Miller sighed, rubbing his temples. He looked from the carousel to Brenda Perkins's house, where the curtains twitched violently. "Look, Mr. Miller," he said, the shared name clearly causing him psychic pain. "Just try to keep the grinding noises down after 5 p.m., okay? City ordinance." He glanced back at the structure, then at me, a look of profound bewilderment on his face. "And, good luck with the HOA. You're probably gonna need it." They got back in their car. As they pulled away, I could have sworn I saw Officer Chen give me a quick, subtle thumbs up in the rearview mirror. Brenda Perkins was practically vibrating with rage on her porch across the street. The carousel was almost ready. Showtime was approaching. The day of the grand unveiling arrived, marked by a nervous energy usually reserved for product launches or hostage situations. Julian and his team had finished the final calibrations, polished the stainless steel to a blinding sheen, and discreetly vanished, leaving me alone with my creation. The carousel stood silent and imposing on the front lawn, its 6 arms empty, waiting. I'd decided against a formal ceremony, no ribbon cutting or champagne, mostly because Julian's final invoice had severely depleted the champagne budget. But word had gotten around. Gary Henderson ambled over, grinning like an idiot. "This is it, huh, Dave? The 8th wonder of Maple Creek?" A couple of other neighbors, the ones who secretly enjoyed a bit of chaos, lurked at the edges of their properties, pretending to weed their flower beds while craning their necks. Across the street, the opposition had gathered. Brenda Perkins stood ramrod straight on her porch, flanked by Susan from 2 doors down and a few other HOA board members, all clutching clipboards like shields. They looked like a firing squad waiting for the condemned. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Okay, moment of truth," I muttered, clutching the sleek metallic remote control Julian had provided. It had multiple buttons: on-off, speed up, speed down, and something ominously labeled Patriotism Pulse Mode, which I was afraid to try. "Please don't explode. Please don't immediately seize up. Please rotate majestically and annoy the ever-loving heck out of Brenda." I took a deep breath and pressed on. A low hum filled the air as the variable speed motor kicked in. Slowly, majestically, the central column began to turn. The 6 arms swept through the air in a graceful arc. It worked. It actually worked. Now for the pièce de résistance. I'd spent the morning carefully attaching the flags. Arm 1, Old Glory, naturally. Arm 2, the proud flag of our great state. Arm 3, the solemn black POWMIA flag. Arm 4, the yellow Don't Tread on Me, Gadsden flag. Thanks, Cousin Gary. Arm 5, a bright blue flag emblazoned with the logo of my beloved, perpetually underperforming local baseball team. And finally, Arm 6, just for Brenda, a skull and crossbones, a Jolly Roger. Because why not? As the carousel picked up speed, the flags unfurled, catching the afternoon breeze. Red, white, and blue whipped past, followed by the state colors, the stark black and white, the coiled snake, the baseball logo, and finally the grinning pirate skull. One flag at a time, just like the bylaw said. Gary let out a whoop. "Woohoo! Go Dave! R, matey!" Across the street, Brenda gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Susan shrieked something incoherent about property values and pirate dens. The other board members just stared, mouths agape, clipboards forgotten. I couldn't help it. A wild, triumphant grin split my face. I gave the carousel a little wave. Then, feeling bold, I pressed the speed up button. The flags became a colorful blur, the humming of the motor rising slightly in pitch. Operation Carousel was officially underway. The following days settled into a new, bizarre routine. Every morning, I'd activate the carousel. Every evening, I'd turn it off. Mostly, sometimes, I forgot, and left the subtle uplighting on all night. I experimented with the variable speed, sometimes letting it turn with stately grace, other times whipping the flags around at near takeoff velocity. Brenda was losing her mind. I saw her out there daily, sometimes with binoculars, sometimes with a stopwatch. Gary reported she'd tried to measure the decibel level of the motor's hum with a smartphone app. The beige envelopes continued to arrive, citing new, increasingly desperate violations. Potential distraction to motorists, unnatural rotating motion inconsistent with neighborhood character, possible violation of migratory bird flight paths. I'm not making that last one up. I added them to the carousel's decorations. I also started expanding my flag collection. I added a flag with my dog's face on it, a goofy golden retriever named Max. I ordered a custom flag that just said beige in large black letters. I briefly considered adding sound effects, maybe a loop of Sousa marches or even better, sea shanties for the pirate flag, but decided against pushing my luck. For now. The inevitable emergency HOA meeting was called. Gary, who attended out of morbid curiosity, gave me the play-by-play later. Apparently, Brenda had delivered a presentation complete with blurry photos, decibel readings, and impassioned pleas about the sanctity of Maple Creek's aesthetic harmony. "It's an affront," she'd reportedly declared, banging her fist on the table. "A monstrosity. It's lowering property values. It's attracting pirates. We must consult the lawyers. Find a loophole. There has to be a bylaw against rotating." Apparently, there wasn't. Yet. The lawyers, however, were consulted. A few days later, the black and white cruiser reappeared, this time accompanied by a sleek black sedan. Officers Miller and Chen got out, looking even more weary than before, followed by a stern-looking woman in a power suit carrying a briefcase. Uh-oh. Legal artillery. "Mr. Miller," the woman announced, marching up my driveway without preamble. "I am Cynthia Blackwell, legal counsel for the Maple Creek Estates Homeowners Association." She thrust a thick document at me. "This is a formal cease and desist order, demanding the immediate cessation of operation and the prompt removal of this structure." I took the document, feigning casualness. "Cease and desist? On what grounds, Miss Blackwell? As I've explained repeatedly, this flag display system is fully compliant with Bylaw 7.4. See? See?" I gestured dramatically as the Jolly Roger swung into view. "One flag at a time." Miss Blackwell's eye twitched. "The structure itself constitutes a nuisance, Mr. Miller. It violates the aesthetic covenants of the community, creates undue attention, and is fundamentally inconsistent with the established architectural standards." "Ah, the aesthetic harmony clause," I interrupted cheerfully. "Bit vague, isn't it? Hard to enforce, legally speaking. Unlike, say, Bylaw 7, 4.c, which is quite specific, and which I am meticulously adhering to." Officer Miller cleared his throat, addressing the lawyer quietly but firmly. "Ma'am, with all due respect, from a law enforcement perspective, unless this thing is posing an immediate safety hazard, violating a specific city ordinance, or, actually summoning pirates, our hands are pretty much tied. HOA disputes are generally civil matters." Officer Chen coughed, possibly to hide a smirk. Miss Blackwell shot Officer Miller a look that could curdle milk. "This is your final warning, Mr. Miller," she hissed at me, snatching the cease and desist order back when I didn't immediately sign it in terror. "The HOA is prepared to pursue all available legal remedies. Expect a summons." She spun on her heel and marched back to her sedan, slamming the door. The officers lingered for a moment. "Just try not to add any cannons to it, okay, Miller?" Officer Miller said, shaking his head as he walked back to the cruiser. Officer Chen just grinned and gave me another subtle thumbs up before getting in. I was winning. Or at least, I wasn't losing yet. The whole ridiculous saga even hit the local news. A perky reporter named Mindy showed up with a cameraman, drawn by rumors of the Maple Creek flag war. I gave her an interview right there in front of the spinning carousel. I made sure the American flag was prominently featured for the camera, though I timed it so the pirate flag photobombed the end of the segment. "So, Dave," Mindy chirped, microphone thrust towards my face. "Neighbors say you built this giant rotating flag machine because of a dispute with your HOA?" I puffed out my chest, channeling my inner folk hero, or village idiot. The line was blurry. "Mindy, I built this for freedom," I declared, gesturing wildly. "For patriotism, to protest the tyranny of petty regulations like Bylaw 7, Section 4, Paragraph C. And yes," I added, leaning closer to the mic, "Brenda Perkins started it." The segment aired that night. My phone started ringing. Some people called me a hero, a champion of liberty fighting suburban oppression. Others called me an eyesore-creating lunatic. My 15 minutes of local fame, or infamy, as flag carousel guy, had begun. In the end, the lawyers kept sending letters, but the threatened lawsuit never materialized. Maybe Miss Blackwell advised the HOA that defining aesthetic harmony in court was a losing battle. Maybe the bad press from the news segment made them reconsider. Or maybe, just maybe, they realized how utterly ridiculous the whole thing was. They didn't exactly surrender, but a sort of grudging truce settled over Willow Lane. An amendment to the bylaws was quietly circulated, clarifying rules about large, rotating, multi-armed structures, but it grandfathered in existing installations, that is, mine. In return, I tacitly agreed to limit the Carousel's operating hours to daylight only, and to perhaps retire the Jolly Roger except on special occasions, like Talk Like a Pirate Day, obviously. I even painted the base a tasteful, HOA-approved shade of, well, beige, a small concession. So here I sit on my porch swing, watching the Carousel turn slowly in the evening breeze. Old Glory catches the last rays of sunlight. It's peaceful now, mostly. Was it worth it? The cost was significant. Let's just say Julian's definition of subtle uplighting involved components typically used by NASA. My relationship with several neighbors remains frosty. And I'll forever be known as Flag Carousel Guy. Sarah still shakes her head sometimes, but I catch her smiling when she thinks I'm not looking. But you know what? Every time I see Brenda Perkins avert her gaze as she power walks past my house, a little thrill goes through me. They tried to limit my flag. They cited Bylaw 7.4. See, so I built a rotating flag carousel. It's stupid, it's excessive, it cost a fortune, but it's mine, and it spins, and honestly, Brenda hasn't complained about my trash cans being out 10 minutes early even once since it went up. You gotta pick your battles. Or sometimes you gotta build a giant rotating flag-waving machine to fight them for you. God bless America, and loopholes.